Okay, we're doing our petcock now. So this one here leaks out of the gas tank somewhere, I think out the bottom or something. They got a fuel filter on here, which I don't really like using too much. And it looks like they got the line going straight out, and they make a hard turn going down, which obviously causes a kink. Not good for flow. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a petcock that goes straight down, like this. So it goes straight down, and we'll just go on down through here down to there. Try to stay away from your plug wire as much as you can. And go down the carburetor. On the S&S, the fitting on this older one is straight up and down. Well, it's also an Ultima. So this one comes straight down like the old S&S used to do it. The new S&S has a banjo that points that direction, which helps you a little bit. It looks like the fuel line's going to have to go through the center of the bracket there because there's no room to go between the cylinder and the bracket. So I guess that's why they cut it out like that. It's a good place to chafe your line though, which is not good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and run that through. I'm not sure how much gas is left in this tank, but it is stinky, I know that. So we're going to try to do it as quick as we can without making too big of a mess. The tank's pretty much empty, but there is some in there. So we're going to use the, like I said, this petcock here. It's a high flow, cheaper one. But they're good quality. They're cheapo because they're not a pingle. So these are your standard universal ones. But these are good quality. They're not the super cheap ones. These are basically OE replacement ones. So the screen here is the gasket. As it tightens it down, it's the gasket. This is your reserve here. So you got to make sure you put the grooves in here where they belong, where they line up. Push all the way down. Now this is a double nut deal on this deal. As you tighten the nut up, to tighten this, it loosens down here. So usually what you want to do is you want to get it right in the middle. So you got threads on this side and threads on this side. You spin the whole petcock in, and then at the very end you tighten the nut and hold this where you want it to be. Try not to just keep tightening this and holding this, because then it'll just unscrew right off and you'll strip it when you tighten it. Then you'll screw up your petcock. So we don't want to do that. Screwdriver. Okay, he has some kind of automotive cheapo auto parts store hose clamps on here. Well, that's what I was going to get, hose clamps. Oops. Get off of there. Hose is old and hard. You can put a razor blade on there and strip them, or a sharp knife. Get the hose clamps out of the way. This one, hose clamp's not out of the way. If I turn the petcock, it'd be easier too, but why make it easy on myself? I like fighting. Don't move the bike off the rack. That'd be a bad thing. Alright. So that is what you call a pinched line. It really cuts the flow down when you do that. Alright, so grab a couple previously used rags. They're really full of gas anyway. Stick them underneath there to catch up some of the slop, because they'll probably have some slop coming out. It already smells pretty sweet, so. So there's the kind of crap inside the tank. It's varnish and dirt and rust combo. So it plugs up stuff, but if you rub on it, it pulverizes and goes away. I had that stink up in there. Clean things off slightly. I'll put the new one up in here. Gotta make sure it goes on straight. So it doesn't want to go on straight. There it goes. Must have went on straight fine. One to cross thread. And make sure they're going on straight before you bring out the tools. So you don't get too much torque on it, but you gotta get enough to get where you need to be. So that's about maximum torque I really want to put on it. But we're in the wrong spot, so I gotta fix that. So you loosen it up, rotate the petcock a little bit if you can. Quarter, nope. Probably metric. 11/16 maybe? Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so hold the nut, rotate the petcock, and then tighten this up again. Okay, now the petcock's a little bit further than I want it to be, so we do the opposite. So now we're almost where we want to be. Getting tight. There we go. It's nice and tight there too. So you just adjust it where you want it to be. It works. So on this one here, off is all the way to the back. It's pretty gritty without anything in there. Alright. So we didn't make too much of a mess, that's good. So this here looks like a round pingle petcock, but it's got a cheapo screen on it, so I know it's not a pingle, so some kind of a copy of a pingle. So it's just an import copy. If it's a genuine one, you can put stuff in here. Now, I wonder if it's a Golan. Golans don't really run cheap screens, as I recall. But I see it has notches in here like a Golan does it. So anyway, if it's a better petcock, they're actually rebuildable. This doesn't have any name on it. I'm sure it's just an import copy of it, so it looks like a real petcock, but it's not. So Pingles and Golans are rebuildable. They sell pieces to do that. Okay, so now we need some new hose. So I use 5/16 hose. So we just put this on here and then we go down underneath. So I'm going to run it to the other side first. It needs to come up through here somehow. Kind of a tight squeeze like that, but I don't want to have it near the plug wire, so normally you run them down low under here, which is still an option. I might go that route. You have to be way down here in the center. You want to try to keep away from your plug wires. Let's see, you can't really see what I'm doing there. Can run right through here. So maybe that's how I'll do it, because it's a nice curve like this. I don't like being sharp edges. especially when you get a rub on the inside in here. That was good. So let me go on the other side and see how this is going to work. Okay, so if it comes through there, goes up to here, that's how it roots. So it's rubbing on our plug wire right here, which I don't like too much. It's down in the lower part of the cylinder where it's cooler. It's a lot hotter up high, obviously. So if we put a zip tie or something on this to hold it over, try to keep it off the plug wire a little bit. The problem is it's pretty much always going to rub on the plug wire. That's about the best you can do, is do a zip tie right here like that. It's still, it's right up against the plug wire, but not really pushing on it too hard. So that's that way of doing it. So you can see how we got the plug wire issue right here. So if you zip tie it over, it'll pull over a little bit, but see, it's still, the plug wire is right there close. Depending on how much tension you put on your plug wire, what it does. If you put it to the inside over here, going that way, see, it still wants to go in against that plug wire, but we'll see. So that's option A. That's my preferred way of doing it. And that works best over there, the carburetor. So the other way would come up over on the inside. See how that works. The camera's just too high is the problem. There we go. Alright, so now go through the other direction over here. Let's see what we think of this method. Okay, now we're off of the plug wire, which is a plus. So we've got clearance back in there. What I don't like is the heavy rubbing right there. And that's right against the hot part of the motor too, which is hot. So it's another problem. Now if you zip tie and get over here toward this way a little bit further, you're staying off the motor a little bit better. It's a little sharp here, but not too awful bad. The bend is still not kinked yet, so you're all right there, but it is a sharp bend. So, if you let it come down against here, you shorten out your bend a little bit, but you're up against this area here. So, it's not super hot right here, but it is hot. It's cooler if you're over here. This is still going to burn your fingers here on the motor. If you get over here, it's going to drop 100 degrees at least on the hose. Minimum of 100 degree drop, which will help you on your vapor lock. And we're not really rubbing on the cylinder down here anymore either, which is kind of a plus. So one of the tricks you can do to help a situation like this is you can take a piece of hose and put it around the outside of it to get it off of, give you another protective layer here and separate the heat. So that might be something you put like a 1/2 inch hose around or something like that. Of course I don't have any old 1/2 inch hose laying around anymore, but that's one of the tricks you can do. And then this one here, it just comes into the under here, and we should be good. So I think this is our best routing method, but we are going to armor the line over there. So we're going to hook this side up last because it's the easiest to get to. And the exhaust pipe on the other side should be out of the way enough. Shouldn't be a problem. Okay, disconnect that. Take the hose pipe over the other side. Go do it. You always got to figure out what you're going to do here, how things are working, what happens when you do things certain ways. Now this is going to go the other direction over here. And we're going to go on the other side of the bike now. fish it down through the hole here. Now the hose has a natural curve to it, so it'll take advantage of it. Makes things a lot easier. Okay, what do I do with that clamp? Let's see, clamp. Would you like having those on the other side? On this side, on this one. I don't like it that way. You want to put the clamp so you can actually get it on and off when you got the air cleaner on it. That way you don't have to pull the carburetor off to fix your line. But you also don't want to be cutting your knuckles when you're doing your push rods. Of course, you don't really adjust push rods much on an Evo, not like you're working on an old bike. Evo's a new motor for me, even though it's old, it's new. Modern design, a lot of stuff. Alright, we're clamped in. So there's your clamp right here. When you put the cover on here, you'll still have access when the street arc comes through here where this hose is. You stick up area to your cover here, you can clean them or whatever you want to do without taking your knuckles off. And we still got this stupid breather line right here. It's going to puke oil all over the place. I'm a big fan of these stupid things. But you're going right through there with the clamp through there. The natural curve of the line is doing that curve, so we're not fighting it too bad. So if you were fighting the curve, it'd be a lot more wear and tear on the line. Okay, now we go back over here on this side. And we're going to go ahead and chop the line and mount it. Okay. A little bit of line here. Figure out how the curve is going to work to our advantage here. Always like to make sure you got a little extra slack in here, so cut it long to begin with, that way you can always shorten it. So I got like an extra inch in here. Cut it straight helps. Pretty good to me. Okay. I'm going to steal the other hose clamp off of here. Now if you're going to run a filter, you always want to try to run them vertical and not horizontal. When you run them horizontal, they tend to want to not flow very well for some reason. It's like to get a vacuum lock or something going on. So I always try to keep them vertical, so you always want to hang them like this if you can, not like this. The problem is there's no application for that in here. There's no real place to even put that because of the way the hose is going. There's no room for it anywhere. And we had a filter up in the tank, remember? Okay, I always like putting this on the back side so then when you turn it on and off you don't catch this here and rake your knuckles across it. One less thing to make you bleed. Some people like to bleed a lot, so do what you want. Trying to get the clamp to go on there. I think it's tight. Once again, let the hose dictate where it wants to be. Let the hose help you instead of fight you. tight. Okay, it's not too bad. So the hose is coming up through here, the natural flow. Comes up to the back side, we got a 1/2 inch gap between the plug wire and the hose down in there. And the natural flow of the line is, you actually got a gap here in the cylinder. And on the mounts, it's only hitting right there in that one spot. So it's actually not too bad. Now if you want to do something, one trick you can do is you can take a file or a grinder and put a nice bevel right there and let it kind of sit on that and eliminate that sharp edge to dig in. We're going to find some hose to go around this thing and protect it with another piece of hose. I think it'd be our best option. But the other option, like I said, is to go ahead and file that down a little bit and get rid of that edge and give it a little place to set. But it's naturally going to want to go down toward the motor. And it'll probably eventually go that way anyway, so at some point you probably have to put a zip tie on it. But for now, it wants to set right there. Now if I shorten the line up a little bit, it would pull in away from that plug wire a little bit more. If I took a 1/2 inch out of here, it would pull it over some more. But I always like giving a little extra just to make sure you got enough. So you can go ahead and cut 1 inch off if you have to redo the end. You have plenty of extra line. You can see you got a nice curve going around here. So we're close to our pipe here, but not too bad. And we're not rubbing over here too much either. Just lightly. Like I said, if you shorten up the hose, it would get a little more clearance here also. It would push over here. It would go more like this. It would push over. But it puts more bind right up in here, which is where it's going to crack and break. So give a nice generous bend. You'll be a lot happier. Alright. So protective sleeve down there wouldn't hurt, and one right here wouldn't hurt. Those are the only two places rubbing. So there's how you do it for now. Alright, so I go find me some gas put in here, we should be fine. When you're sitting on the bike, you got good access to your petcock, which is good. That's what you want. So there you go. Alright, we'll be back.